Welcome to Caregiver Cast with Mary Elaine Petrucci. Are you overwhelmed raising a family, working full-time, caring for a parent or grandparent? It can be challenging when you're doing it alone. Caregiver Cast helps busy, burned-out professionals reduce their stress and overwhelm to create a better caregiving experience for themselves and their loved one. Caregiver Cast brings caregivers together with experts who provide information in a variety of areas. In each episode, you'll get tips on topics such as finance, legal, medical, self-care, community resources, mindset, and more. We're here to make your caregiving journey a more rewarding one. Acquire the confidence and skills to be a more capable caregiver by implementing the resources and strategies from these expert thought leaders. Get a community of support, resources, and strategies for your caregiving journey inside the Caregiver Lifeline community. Visit caregiverlifelinecommunity.com. And now here's your host, Mary Elaine Petrucci.
Hi, welcome to Caregiver Cast. My name is Mary Elaine Petrucci, and my guest today is Permelia Parnham, and she will be talking to us about the body code. It's got me really intrigued. Before I formally introduce Permelia, I am going to give you some background information about her. Permelia Parnham has throughout her life been passionate about learning to be the best version of herself. This led her to study energy healing, vibration, the law of attraction, and emotional healing. Permelia then became a teacher and practitioner, having studied and taught these healing modalities for over 20 years. And as a certified body code / emotion code practitioner, Permelia offers healing sessions to release negative emotions from the subconscious. Through her company, Vibrational Healing, she provides body code healing sessions, individual consultations, such as chakra balancing, releasing limiting beliefs, healing past lifetime energy, and teaching strategies on how to increase energy, expand self-awareness, and be empowered to make positive and successful life changes. The pandemic has given Permelia the opportunity to meet other like-minded practitioners all over the world, and she has been divinely guided to create a virtual global healing platform. The Healing Institute, connecting holistic practitioners with people seeking ways to be well and stay well on their health journey. Welcome, Permelia, to Caregiver Cast. How are you?
I'm very well, Elaine. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this lovely podcast. So I'm very grateful, Mary Elaine. Thanks so much.
Well, you're welcome. I was really intrigued when you mentioned the body code. So we will get to that in just a moment. But first, what led you to study healing?
Well, I was doing it just because I wanted to feel more empowered in myself. I had always been interested in studying, in learning different kinds of ways of being well and staying well. I didn't have that language back when I was a child, but I was always inquisitive. I was always curious. I was always asking questions. One of the common things I was always told was, "You ask too many questions."
Such a bad thing,
and you're too sensitive.
Oh, and too sensitive. Yes. Well,
too sensitive, ask too many questions. But I was always curious. And because I was looking for something, to be honest, Mary Elaine, I didn't even know what it was I was looking for. I just wanted to feel better overall in myself. Physically, I was healthy, but emotionally, I just didn't feel completely, I wasn't in my joyful state. And so I started to look around and see what was available at the time. And I was introduced to a woman who actually her business was also about vibrational healing. And I started studying under her and ended up studying under her for 8 years off and on, to learn the different ways to feel grounded. Chakra balancing was a perfect opportunity to learn how to do that. I'd kind of heard about chakras, but I didn't really know too much about it. And the way she taught it was not just that chakras were aligned within ourselves, but they actually were part of our aura, like our vertically and horizontally. So it was a program that she had designed and put together, which also included healing past lifetime energy and realigning limiting beliefs. So I took her program, which is about a 2-year program, and then you just start to work on your own, whatever your own work was. And I found the more I did this, the more I was working on myself inwardly, and I felt better. I felt more joyful. I felt more connected with the world and the people around me. And so that led me to making a number of decisions. So I would feel that way. And one of the decisions was I live on Vancouver Island in Canada, and I was moving back to Vancouver Island. So she had said to me when I told her I was moving and how much I was going to miss coming to hang out with her, she told me I was going to actually do something, that I was going to be passing on my knowledge. And I was quite shocked, because that wasn't anything that I had thought that I would end up being a teacher of. I was just really loving learning from her. Anyway, it did come about, not right away, but I incorporated everything that I learned from her, how to ground myself. I would do a grounding exercise every morning. I would make sure my energy was balanced. I'd protect myself with my white light and opal light. And so I did feel very grounded and did feel very calm. And so when I was working at a resort here on Vancouver Island, my coworkers had commented about that. So I felt that I should, let them know, still not thinking that this was going to become a business or that, but right away they were like, oh, we need to know how to do this. So I was going back to Edmonton to visit my children because they still lived up there. And I made an appointment to go visit my teacher and said to her, well, your prediction has come true. And so she just immediately photocopied a number of things that I could then start teaching right away. And so with her blessing, I was able to start to teach my coworkers, and it just sort of evolved from there. So there was also, I just started teaching out of my home, and then I decided that I would call my business Vibrational Healing, and because that's what it was. It's all about our vibration and how we heal ourselves, and also while we're healing ourselves, we're also healing the planet. And as my teacher used to always say, you're raising your own individual consciousness, you're raising the consciousness of the planet. And so I loved that concept that we're all capable of making the world a better place.
Well, thank you for sharing that story. I'm certainly glad that you started your own business in vibrational healing when you moved to Vancouver Island. Are you still affiliated with that resort so that you can teach classes there?
I could teach classes there if yes, but I no longer work for them directly. It evolved that I was getting more and more business with my company, and that's where my heart was, and that's where my passion was. I mean, I loved the job that I did at the resort, but it was time to just really honor what I had learned and to be able to pass that on to other people. So 8 years ago, I created Vibrational Healing, and I started doing it just part-time while I was still working at the resort. And then it would probably be 7 years ago that I started doing it full-time.
Well, I'm sure you've touched a lot of people, not only on Vancouver Island, but around the world, I'm sure. So what impact did learning the law of attraction have on you?
Well,
That's kind of different, isn't it?
actually, it's very much related because again,
Mm.
it's all about vibration, and
Okay.
we're sort of raised and taught that this body is all there is. But then when we start to study other concepts and find out really we're just
Mhm.
made up of vibration, we're just made up of atoms and molecules, and that is all connected to whatever else is going on in the world.
Mhm.
And so the law of attraction really spoke to me. And this was actually, I started studying that before I even moved back to Vancouver Island, because I used to live here. I grew up here. And that really solidified how I could step into my own power and
Mm.
how I could, in fact, manifest what I wanted to have in my life. And so before I moved back to Vancouver Island, I actually manifested our house. I
Wow.
manifested my job at the resort. That's kind of a funny story, because they were doing a job fair and they didn't have the job that I wanted listed. And so when I went to the booth and they said, "Which job are you applying on?" I said, "It's not on your list." But here's my resume and here's my cover letter, and I've always wanted to be a hostess in a dining room in a in a lovely resort, lovely dining room, upscale dining room. And I found out afterwards one of the women that was at the booth was actually the HR director. So she went back to the manager of the restaurant at the time and just said, "You have to hire this woman." So I've manifested many things in my life. And what the law of attraction taught me was that we all have that opportunity and the power within us to do that, and how to do it. So how, oftentimes we know what we don't want, but how to then create what we do want. And so that was, I have incorporated the law of attraction. The vibration you give out is the vibration you get back, basically, is the law of attraction. So if you give out a positive vibe, you're going to get a positive vibe back. If you're going to get out a negative vibe, you're going to get a negative vibe back. And if you are, for whatever reason, feeling negative, as long as you can course correct that and go, "Oh, okay, well, I'm only going to do this. I'm done with that now. I'm going to get back onto the positive side of life," then that's that's really helpful in kind of stopping that. Sometimes the niggly things, or the thoughts that are going on in our brain that can be negative, we can switch those off and switch them back to being positive.
That's a very good point. However, I know sometimes for me, it takes me a little while to go from negative to positive. So I know recently I was supposed to be, I guess, the leader of this group of 6 other people. And I noticed at times that I wasn't leading very well because I expected more of myself and I wasn't always giving it when I needed to. So,
And
yes.
like anything, Mary Elaine, it's a practice, right? So the more you practice it, the more it comes a little bit easier to you, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. And
And being aware, like what you said, that you were aware of the fact that you weren't maybe giving it your 100%. That's, I always say, awareness is step 1. And then because then we can change it.
it would be nice if we had more time to make the change. But anyway, that's a story for another
That's
time.
another topic.
Yes. So, okay, so you first learned vibrational learning, healing, excuse me. Let me start that one more time. Okay, so you went from studying vibrational healing to the law of attraction. So how did the emotion code, body code come into this whole profession of yours, and how did that all relate together?
Well, that's an excellent question. So I was introduced to the emotion code, which is the first level. There's the emotion code. And then once you have that certification by Dr. Bradley Nelson, Dr. Bradley Nelson was the doctor who created the protocol. And so the emotion code, when I was introduced to that, because of my other learnings about vibration, it just made perfect sense. So the processes that we use with the emotion code and the body code is connecting to the client's subconscious. So again, our subconscious is very, it's very true to who we are. It always wants our highest self, our highest way of living. And we then find out what in the body code, you look at everything that's going on in the body. And Dr. Bradley Nelson was so brilliant. He created a chart of 60, what he calls trapped emotions. So they're balls of negative energy that could be actually stuck in your subconscious and also stuck in your body. And if they're in your body, then they're actually doing actual physical damage or emotional, mental damage as well. So when we use his process that he created, we're actually looking at what those trapped emotions or balls of negative energy are, and then we're releasing them out of the subconscious. So again, it was all vibration. It was looking at our highest consciousness, which was it just made perfect sense to me, having my background of studying vibrational healing and emotional and energy healing.
Okay. So my next question is, because I've been doing a lot of work with neuro-linguistic programming, timeline therapy, and hypnosis. So tell me, though, how you determine where these blockages are within the body. Is there a specific process that you go through to identify, like, what where the blockages are, and then what to do once you determine where it's located?
Yes, so it's a process that was created, that Dr. Bradley Nelson created, that we follow.
Okay.
And so so our clients give us permission to connect up with their subconscious. So we can do that we can do it in person, over the phone, over Zoom, because we are now the client's, what I call proxy. So we're now doing for the client. So the client's given us that permission to connect with their subconscious, and we do that energetically. So that's why it's possible to do it over the phone or over Zoom. So we're connecting up with the client's subconscious. So what happens is that depending on what the client wants to work on, the client's subconscious is actually leading me and my intuition to where it needs to go, either which trapped emotions need to be released or where in the body, whether it's an organ or a gland or a system. It could be the digestive system. It could be the neurological system. It could be the chakras. It could be the meridians. It could be anything that's going on in the body. Now, remember, it's always determined by what the client wants to work on. So I always get the client to articulate that, because then it's the client's subconscious that's leading me in the program where we need to go. And I have the body code is an app that I have on my tablet. So the client subconscious will then lead me where we need to go. And I know that for maybe some people that are listening, that might sound really bizarre and quite odd. But when you know about energy, and when you tap into somebody's energy, which is what you're doing, when I'm doing it, my client gives me permission to connect with their subconscious, I'm really not doing the work. It's the client. I mean, we're doing it together, but it's really the client that is the client's subconscious that's telling me where we need to go, what part of the body needs to be healed, which trapped emotions need to be released. So Often I'll have my clients tell me, oh, wow, you really hit that one on the head. Like it'll be an age, for example, maybe a certain age will find out when this trapped emotion, and they'll remember that it was an event of some kind. And I always say, well, we're doing this together. Like, it's not just me. I mean, my intuition is very, very good. And I've taken classes and courses on intuition so that I rely on my intuition and I don't second guess it. But it's always the client's subconscious that's driving it. And it's due to, because that's the subconscious wants the client to be well. It's always wants us to be at our best and at our highest consciousness level.
Definitely. So I totally agree with you. It's amazing. People think that we are consciously doing things all day long. And it was really shocking to me to come to know and to understand that it's really your unconscious mind that is in the driver's seat.
It's sometimes running the show when you
It
really
is.
don't want it to. That's right. And I always use the analogy of an iceberg. So what's up above the water is in our conscious brain. And now scientific facts, we know that our conscious brain really is only 10%. And then what's below the water of an iceberg is what's in our equates to our subconscious. So we might be consciously aware of the fact that we might be angry, or we have regret, or we feel grief or anger or anxiety. And I always say that's great when we're consciously aware of our emotions, because then we can do something about it. But I always like to remind everybody the larger portion, the 90% portion, is in the subconscious. So that's where it does the most damage. So that's why we need to release them out of the subconscious.
Most definitely. So you find out where how do you get the clients to kind of like reveal their unconscious mind to you? Is it more through hypnosis, or is there another technique that you employ?
No, they just need to give me permission to connect with the subconscious, and then the subconscious leads me where we need to go. There's different types of trapped emotions. I should probably explain that. So you could inherit them. So you can inherit them from your father's side of the family, your mother's side of the family. They can go back many generations. And so if you're getting, let's say you have this emotion, this trapped emotion of anxiety, it could have come from it could have been passed on from your grandparents to your parents, or your mother, your grandfather to your mother, and then got passed on to you. So there's another trapped emotion called prenatal, which means something was happening with your mother when she was pregnant with you, but you got the trapped emotion. Well, you would never know that if you didn't explore why that trapped emotion is showing up. You can inherit them, and you can absorb them from other people. There's one called the heart wall, which means the subconscious will put a protection, an invisible protection around your heart. But if you get an emotion that's trapped within that wall, then you'll have issues with relationships and possibly even success in life. So probably the easiest way to explain is perhaps to give you an idea. If I can offer an example of a couple of my clients. So one of my clients is in his 60s, and he had this really reoccurring pain in his neck and his shoulders, so much so that he wasn't able to sleep at night. And so he contacted me, and we set up a package of 3 sessions for him. Well, as it turned out, I found that some of the trapped emotions, like resentment and grief, I'm just trying to think what else was there. What happened when he was like 20 years previous, when he was in his 40s, was he lost a job. And that was very traumatic for him, because he was the breadwinner of the family. And, the circumstances were, I can't remember all of the reasons why, but all of a sudden he was without work. And he remembered that incident. He remembered what was happening at that time. his body and his subconscious was still holding on to those emotions.
Oh my
So they
goodness.
started manifesting in pain in his shoulders and his neck. So we did 3 sessions, and over a course of 3 weeks, I usually, when I book out more than one session, I have them a week apart. And by the second week, he called me actually before we even had the second session to say that the pain was gone.
Oh,
So
that's
our
amazing.
bodies hang on to emotions, even though we may not be aware, and then physically they're going to show up. So that's also another reason why we want to definitely make sure that we have released these trapped emotions. And another example that I can give you is a friend of mine brought her young son, he was 10, to see me because she had told me, she's a friend, so we had been chatting, and she had told me that when he was born, he had a very traumatic birth. He almost died. And then as we were talking later, she said, sometimes he's really a lovely, sweet little boy, but every now and again, he'll just lash out to his younger sister or, friends in the playground or whatever. So I said, well, in view of the fact that you told me that he had a very traumatic birth, I believe that there's still some emotions that are trapped in his subconscious. And he is, of course, only 10, and he's not able to articulate, how he feels. So she brought him to me. And so we had a session, and I found things like horror and panic and just very strong emotions. And sure enough, we did one session, and about 2 days later, she called me back and she said, "You will not believe the difference in him. Even his teachers and his principal are coming up to me at school saying, 'What did you do to your son?'" And one of the sort of byproducts of this was, which she didn't tell me, his teacher had brought her a book, like a chapter book, one day when she went to pick him up from school. And she said he went to the library, he got this book, and he sat and read it during reading time. He'd never done that. So he wasn't able to actually sit and spend time just reading. So, that just makes my heart, because I just feel so good to be able to help a young child at a very early age. So now he's going to have, he's not going to be growing into his teens wondering why maybe he has this anxiety or anger that he doesn't know what to do with.
Oh my gosh, that sounds really powerful. I mean, it must have been very traumatic for him.
Oh, it was traumatic for his mother, so I'm sure it was traumatic for him as a baby.
So I know that sometimes then, because the mother in that situation was going through something really traumatic, was it her vibration that was transferred to the child when he was being born or right after he was born?
It could have been. I didn't really ask those questions. I just felt that the trauma of the birth itself was that there was still emotions that needed to be released. And so definitely was, and it could have, I don't know. I didn't ask her whether or not it was a story that she told him on a regular basis, or told him how what a traumatic birth he had. I didn't ask her those questions, but we were able, she's going to bring him back to see me again every couple months. So it's like, all right, this sounds good. We'll do maintenance.
Sounds like a good option. It sounds pretty amazing to me. So the emotion code is just tapping into your unconscious and trying to find out where those blockages are. So how different is the body code process?
Well, it uses the emotion code. So as I was saying earlier, the emotion code is the first level. So you study an online course from Dr. Bradley Nelson. To be certified in the emotion code, we need to submit 30 case studies, 26 people and 4 animals. So it works on animals too. I've also done a lot of work with animals. a lot of our animals and our pets are rescue. So they've had emotional upheavals in their life. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
So, so I had to submit the 30 case studies. I also there was a 100 question test that I had to pass over 90% to get my certification. And basically it was just connecting with clients, talking about what their issue was, looking at the chart of 60 trapped emotions and finding out which emotions needed to be released. So I've been certified in that for 4.5 years. And after feeling really confident after 2 years of doing just the emotion code work, I wanted to then start studying the body code. And the body code is the next level. So it's looking at everything that's going on in the body.
Okay.
So all the organs, all the glands, all the systems, just everything that could be connected to the body that you can possibly think of. As a matter of fact, I felt that I was going through medical school as I was studying, because there was just so much information around the body and how it works, both physically, emotionally, and mentally. So I studied, again, it's a course, an online course that Dr. Bradley Nelson offers. And I studied that throughout the fall of 2019. And then for that to be certified in the body code, you need to have 20 case studies, but you need to have 5 sessions per case study. So an introductory session, three sessions, and then a follow-up session. So I was very fortunate. I was able to go back to a lot of my emotion code clients and say, would you like to have a complimentary body code session? Because I could really utilize the fact that, to use you as a case study if you're okay with that. So yeah, everybody was. It was wonderful. And then again, I think it was 150 question tests that we had to do. And again, of course, you had to have over 90% on that. And so I've been certified in that. I got certified in that just in December of 2019. So that's almost 2.5 years that I've been certified in, well, coming up for 3 years, I guess, that I've been certified in body code work.
Awesome. So, again, you're with the body code. I'm just assuming that it's just like you said, it's like the emotion code. So you talk to the unconscious mind and then determine what body system, whether it's the circulatory or the digestive or adrenal system, whatever.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And of course, if there is a misalignment or an imbalance or disconnection of some kind, it's always due to a trapped emotion. So we'll go into the body code program and find out where in the body is the issue. And then we'll go to the chart, the emotion code chart, and find out which trapped emotions need to be released in order to adjust or heal, release, realign, whatever it is that that the client is saying that they have concerns about, and also what their subconscious is saying, where it is in the body. So it's always due to a trapped emotion. Yeah,
that's really interesting.
So that's how the two kind of work together. The emotion code and the body code work together.
So it's like you said, it's the body code looks at your body systems, and the emotion code is really looking at where in the body the emotions are really trapped.
That's exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
You have it. You got it.
Just checking,
Yes.
I just, I can see that you and I need to talk after this. Anyway, we will have that discussion. So why did you go from doing all this work to create the Healing Institute? What motivated you to do that?
So I live on Vancouver Island,
Mhm.
which is a beautiful energetic vortex. Those of us who live here, we know it's an amazing place to live.
Mhm.
And there was a conference that was here in 2018 called the Science and Spirituality Conference. So people like Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Lee Carroll, Lynn McTaggart, they all came to this conference for a week. And I'd heard about the conference, and I have followed all of these people. I've got all of their books on my bookshelf. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is just amazing. So we were, those of us that, live nearby, we were like, well, because they picked it's a smaller city than, say, Vancouver, which is a very big city on the mainland that has a huge conference center. Even Victoria, which is our capital city of our province of British Columbia, which is at the south end of the island, they have a bigger conference center. We're like, why did they pick Nanaimo, which is in the middle of the island? Well, they told us it was because of this energetic vortex. So I got thinking about that. After at the time, I had a small, what I called a wellness center. It was had a few practitioners. There was just maybe 3 or 4 of us, and we only had 2 rooms, so we kind of had to organize our schedule when we were seeing clients. But I liked the concept of having this wellness center. So going into 2019, I was thinking, well, what if I found a building? Or, I talked to practitioners that I would meet at fairs and health fairs, and say, if you had a spot where you could do your yoga retreats, or you could do your workshops, or you could even rent a room and see your clients, like rent an office and see your clients, would that be something you'd be interested in? And everybody said yes. So that was in my mind on the fall of 2019, as I was kind of looking around my city where I live and trying to see if there was a building that we could renovate, or if there was a plot of land that we could build something on. And then we know what happened in 2020, right?
Yes.
So I actually had an office in our city, but I wasn't really happy there because it wasn't very soundproof. So I was like, all right. So then, of course, everything gets shut down in March of 2020, and I need to take my office home. Well, very fortunate for me, and I'm so grateful that I can do all my work by Zoom or over the phone. So I didn't have to shut down my company. So that was very, very, very great. Yeah. So then what's happening is I'm starting to network on these networking platforms. So I'm finding out that there's practitioners all over the world who are wanting, to do less marketing and have more clients. So I got to thinking about my concept of a building, and I thought, well, why can't we just we could make it virtual? And of course, now it makes perfect sense, because it's been probably, over 2.5 years now that we've been hanging out on Zoom in every which way.
Exactly.
So it just made perfect sense that I started talking to practitioners, talking to them about if they were how much marketing they like to do. Nobody likes to do marketing. They just want to do what they do best, right?
Right. Exactly.
I'm a practitioner, but I also have a bit of a business head. So I know marketing has to be done. But anyway, that's why I decided to build the platform. So it's a virtual global platform mainly for holistic practitioners, but we are going to be bringing clients to the practitioners. So we're actually going to be doing a very robust marketing strategy to get the word out to the world that we have practitioners that are holistic and can sort of, they can treat the root cause of why you may be physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually not well. And so get to the root cause. So I have 26 practitioners that have signed up for me we're going to test it out for the next 3 months till the end of the year.
Okay.
I'm just so excited. We're about ready to go live. We're just getting all the final pieces together on the website. and we'll be launching the 1st of October. So
Wow.
we just wanted to, I'm passionate about creating a proactive wellness society. We've been a reactive illness society way too long. All my practitioners are heart-centered. They really care about the client. We're having a whole person. We're looking at the client as a whole person. So if the client came to me for body code work, for example, and I thought, well, they could really utilize 2 or 3 or 4 even other practitioners' work, we would get together as practitioners, have a conversation, and put a plan together and give it back to the client. So the client's they're not just showing up and having a diagnosis and then either leaving because they don't know what they should do, or and I'm not saying anything bad about allopathic medicine, because I believe there's a place for it, but I think too often we as society have relied on allopathic medicine to fix us, and as we know, there's lots of side effects to a lot of the medications that we're given, and a lot of people, especially elderly people in 60s, 70s, 80s, are given lots of medication, one medication after the other, for whatever reason, and they have had side effects. So I want to offer to the world that there's another way that you can be well and stay well on your health journey, without having to always resort to the way that we've been taught that we should be looking at our health. More from a reactive, let's fix it now, it's broken, rather than, well, let's make it well. Let's look at what are we eating, and how are we, in fact, how are we bringing this in, like what's happening here, right? So yeah.
Okay. That's really amazing. So you're doing the marketing for all these 26 people around the world. How are you then finding clients? Because are you marketing in each of those cities across the world? So
our 26 clients, our 26 practitioners represent 8 countries so far.
Oh, okay.
So we will be doing videos with each one of I'll be interviewing them. We'll have a YouTube channel. We'll be plastering our name and everything all over the social media. I have a marketing plan that I've worked with a woman who's got 20 years of experience in marketing, and we're now going to be flushing that plan out to an actual strategy. So we're looking at all the different areas. Thank you very much for having me on this podcast so that I can tell people in your community what's available. And, I know that your focus is on caregiving, and that is so important I did a caregiving symposium with another colleague a couple of years ago, and it's so important for caregivers to make sure that they're well. And oftentimes they forget that, and oftentimes they don't look at themselves because they're so involved in the caregiving role that they're not looking, they're concerned about their carees. So they're not really looking at how they need to be healthy. And then before you know it, they're burnt out and they've got all sorts of issues, so it's so very important for caregivers as well as everybody to know that there's availability of things like releasing trapped emotions, or doing hypnotherapy over Zoom, the kinds of NLP, the kinds of modalities that where it's not mainstream medicine, or it hasn't been. But that's one of my focuses, is to make it or help move it forward to be more mainstream. Yes.
Well, I appreciate that. So, 2 questions. Who would benefit from your institute, and how does it support health and wellness? And who would benefit from this Healing Institute?
Well, we have a twofold benefit. So obviously the practitioners, because we're going to bring clients to the practitioners, so they won't have to, they can do what they do best. They won't have to be out there doing so much marketing. And then of course the clients. So the general public that we want to get the word out to, that we exist, that we have we have 26 practitioners starting. My vision is that in 2 years we'll have a minimum of 200 practitioners. We'll be in a minimum of 10 countries and have a minimum of 2,000 clients. So that's my vision, is to get the word out to the world that we exist. I don't know of another company that's got the same business model where we're aligning the practitioners and the clients together.
I think that's really amazing. So tell us, Permelia, what 3 takeaways should caregivers know about the body code, or just in healing in general, or even about your institute, that they can learn more about?
Well, just 3 takeaways. Okay, let me see. So 1, to be aware that your emotions can get stuck in your subconscious,
Okay.
and they can do physical damage. So both as a caregiver and also looking after your caree. So most of our carees are elderly, right? They're either mothers, fathers, aunts, usually uncles. So we're looking after them because they're older and they probably have lots of health challenges, or at least some health challenges. So just knowing as well that how their emotions, the emotions that the carees have, can contribute to them being not as healthy. So you always want to be aware of that. Let's see, another takeaway would be obviously to let people know that we do have holistic practitioners available. So, and all of the holistic practitioners have offered a complimentary information session. So you don't have to sign up for a session right off the bat and pay money. You can actually come and look at the directory of practitioners, look at the modalities that they offer, sign up and get an information session from them, so that you know going forward whether or not this modality is actually the one for you. And that's what we want to make sure. We want to make sure that the clients that are coming to the Healing Institute are getting the proper care that they need to get on their health journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, I think healing in any form is really advantageous to both the caregiver and the caregivee, because sometimes harboring trauma or resentment or guilt really impacts the relationship between the 2 people. And I totally agree with you in terms of getting the word out so that more people can use your services in the Healing Institute. So you offer, you have a special offer for our audience. Can you explain what that is, Permelia?
Yes, so I'd love to offer a complimentary body code session. So this is could be about 45 minutes to an hour, just depending on what the person wants to work on.
Okay.
And it's a value of about $150 US. So I just wanted to offer that to your community, because this could be the first time people have actually heard about the body code and emotion code. And it's always great to experience something before you decide that maybe you want to have more, or there could be other modalities that you can tap into through the Healing Institute. So that's what I wanted to offer, a complimentary body code session. And all I ask is that people come to the session with an idea of something they want to work on, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, whatever it is. Because as I was saying earlier, that's where their subconscious will lead us in the program to heal what needs to be healed.
Oh, well, thank you so much. That is just an amazing offer. And I hope all of our listeners take advantage of this wonderful offer. So how did they get in touch with you to sign up for this offer?
They can certainly email me. So my name, Permelia, at vibrationalhealing.ca. So it's PERMELIA at vibrationalhealing.ca. You can reach me there. If you want to check my website, it's vibrationalhealing.ca. And then, of course, the Healing Institute is the-healing-institute.com.
Thank you so much. That was just a wonderful presentation about different modalities for healing. And I appreciate that you not only provide that emotional and body code healing, but that you're offering it to a wider audience. So thank you so much for being part of the Caregiver Cast today. And again, get in touch with Permelia. Again, it's PERMELIA at vibrationalhealing.ca.
Thank you so much, Mary Elaine, for having me on your podcast. I greatly appreciate that, and having the opportunity to let people know more about how they can be well and stay well on their health journey.
Well, thank you so much. People need to know about different modalities so that they can begin that health journey like you're saying. So thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Caregiver Cast today. Get a community of support, resources, and strategies for your caregiving journey inside the Caregiver Lifeline community. Visit caregiverlifelinecommunity.com. Get involved with the show. Send your email to mpetrusi2002@gmail.com. And we'll see you again next week for another episode of Caregiver Cast.